That's a nice little green, exactly like 4 kilometers. Yeah, keep on the field, like that. Don't stop there,
the heritage and history of the Singapore Botanic Gardens and Fort Canning Park. Right now we are heading to Fort Canning Park, and we will tell you through highlighting 8 fascinating food plants that have played a significant role in the region's cultural and culinary traditions. Now our journey will explore not just the flavors but also the stories and significance behind the plants that you think you know, set against the backdrop of Singapore's historical timeline. Now, all of you have been given some tasty treats, and these are all inspired by the 8 food plants that we are about to discuss. As eating and drinking are not allowed on the bus, please hang on to the food and wait to enjoy your food after the journey ends at Fort Canning Park. Okay, thank you so much. Settlers. These plants provided food, medicine and materials shaping the cultural and culinary landscape of the region. When the British arrived in 1819, they discovered a garden at the foot of the Forbidden Hill, today known as Armenian Street, with very old durian, rambutan, duku and pomelo trees, which suggests that these fruits were already cultivated by the locals back then. And let's start with the king of fruits, the durian. Durio zibatinus. Loved and loathed for its strong aroma and rich flavor, the durian has been part of Southeast Asia culture for centuries. Indigenous peoples have consumed this spiky fruit, integrating it into feasts and celebrations. In traditional medicine, durian was believed to have warming properties, making it very popular as a remedy in Chinese medicine. During the colonial era, British explorers documented the native durian tree, fascinated by its unique qualities. Alfred Russel Wallace, a British naturalist, famously described the fruit during the 19th century as something worth a voyage to the east to experience. You can find native durian trees at Singapore Botanic Gardens Lawn O near the bandstand. So later on, if you do have time, come back to Singapore Botanic Gardens and see if you can find the native durian species. Next, we have rambutan, Nephelium lepaceum, taken from Horton HT 1882, June. Landing of Raffles in Singapore by an eyewitness, Wah Hakim, then 15 years old, was one of the orang laut present on the day the British arrived. As an old man in his 80s, he shared his recollections on that day. I remembered the boat landing in the morning. They went straight to the Temangong's house. There were 2 white men and a sepoy on it. Tuan Raffles was there. He was a short man. Tuan Farquhar was there. He was taller than Tuan Raffles and he wore a helmet. The sepoy carried a musket. They were entertained by the Temangong and he gave them rambutans and all kinds of fruits. Tuan Raffles went into the center of the house. At about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, they came out and went on board again. This account highlights the historical significance of rambutan in Singapore's history. With its distinctive hairy red and green skin, it is a beloved fruit in Southeast Asia. Native to the Malay-Indonesian region and other regions of tropical Southeast Asia, the rambutan has been a staple in Singapore's markets for centuries. Its sweet and juicy flesh is enjoyed fresh, and its presence in local markets is a testament to its enduring popularity. Now, rambutan's introduction to agricultural practices, thriving in the tropical climate of Singapore. In the 19th century, British naturalists and botanists such as William Farquhar documented the diverse fruit flora of Singapore, including the rambutan diversity of the region. You can find rambutan trees planted at Sang Nila Utama Garden at Fort Canning Park. So this is where we are heading. Later on you see if you can find the rambutan trees. Now moving into the 19th century, we enter the colonial era, characterized by the establishment of botanical gardens and the introduction of economically valuable plants. Fort Canning Park and the Singapore Botanic Gardens became centers for botanical research and agricultural experimentation. Next, we have ginger, Zingiber officinale. Ginger, celebrated for its medicinal and cultural culinary uses, was extensively cultivated by the British in the Singapore Botanic Gardens during the colonial era. In the 19th century, British botanical studies documented ginger for its therapeutic properties, leading to its widespread use in colonial Singapore for both culinary and medicinal purposes. Recognized for its economic and therapeutic value, ginger became a staple in Singapore cuisine and was also used by sailors as a remedy for seasickness, underscoring its multifaceted purposes. Henry Nicholas Ridley, the first scientific director of the Singapore Botanic Gardens, wrote the first comprehensive work on the ginger family, the Zingiberaceae. His study, titled The Cytominiae of the Malay Peninsula, was published in the June 1899 issue of the Journal of the Straits Branch of the Royal Asiatic Society. In 2003, the Singapore Botanic Gardens established the Ginger Garden, showcasing a vast collection of ginger species and related plants from around the world, emphasizing ginger's significance in both historical and contemporary contexts. Did anyone see ginger just now? No? Okay, next time you can go back and to the Singapore Botanic Gardens and see if you can see ginger. Something that is very common, but it has a long history. And this notable discovery of the ginger, there is something very special about it. It's called the Singapore ginger, Zingiber singapurense. Now, this species was unknown to science previously until very recently, November 2014. This species was named Zingiber singapurense because it was discovered here in Singapore, and it is the only place in the world where it is known to occur in the wild. Now, found in Singapore's primary forest, this plant is considered critically endangered. So not just animals can be critically endangered, plants also can be. Why? Because of its limited populations, and now it is receiving special attention under the National Parks Board's Species Recovery Program. And this goes to highlight the region's ongoing botanical significance of years and serve as a dietary staple. In Singapore, you can find diverse banana species thriving in various locales. You can find out more at the banana collection in Singapore Botanic Gardens. Bananas have also been integral to various cultural rituals and festivals, reflecting the agricultural ingenuity of early Southeast Asian communities. They were among the plants introduced to Singapore in the early 19th century as part of the efforts to explore and utilize the economic potential of tropical plants. Now, who has heard of the tasty local treat goreng pisang? Raise your hands. Okay, now goreng means fried, pisang means banana. Okay, but did you know that scientifically, goreng pisang is made from this banana called pisang raja, and its scientific name is very long. It is a mix of Musa acuminata crossed with Balbisiana. Also, you can call it pisang raja. Okay? Now, did you also know that banana is actually a berry? Yes, it is considered a berry because of the way it propagates. Okay, the next thing we all know. While it can be eaten raw, the sweet and creamy flesh becomes even sweeter when deep fried into batter, and that's where we get the yummy goreng pisang. And this versatility and nutritional value of bananas have made them a cherished fruit in Singapore, both historically and in modern times. And hybrids, it showcases a spectacular diversity of shapes, colors, and sizes. Now, orchids are deeply entwined with Singapore's identity and international relations. For Singapore to become a global leader in orchid cultivation. One significant development from his work is our national flower, the Vanda Miss Joachim. It is a beautiful cross between the Vanda hookeriana and the Vanda teres. It was named in memory of Miss Agnes Joachim, who bred this unique breed in her garden in Tanjong Pagar in 1893. Selected as Singapore's national flower on April 15, 1981. It symbolizes the resilience and the ability to bloom all year round, reflecting Singapore's hybrid culture and enduring spirit. Today, Singapore honors its guests with tradition of orchid diplomacy, where distinguished guests and foreign dignitaries have orchids named after them as a gesture of goodwill. Next, we transition to a more challenging era during World War II. The region faced significant challenges, including food shortages. Many local plants played crucial roles in sustaining the population during these difficult times. Tapioca, Manihot esculenta, also known as cassava, played a crucial role as a food staple during World War II. Originating from Brazil and Mexico, tapioca was introduced to Singapore in the early 19th century and became naturalized, becoming an integral part of the local flora. With rice shortages during the Japanese occupation, tapioca became a lifesaver, substituting scarce food resources. It was used to make dishes that is still very popular today, like tapioca porridge and tapioca cake. The roots are rich in carbohydrates, making them a vital source of energy during times of scarcity. During the Japanese occupation, every available piece of land in Singapore, including school fields and public parks, were converted into vegetable plots. The Padang, a central public space, was famously turned into a tapioca field. This crop has become a common sight in home gardens and community plots, as it was one of the few crops that could be grown quickly and provided substantial nourishment. In contrast, fruit trees, including tropical varieties like rambutans and durians as mentioned earlier, were considered a luxury, because these fruit trees took time to mature and only produce fruits seasonally. And this made them very impractical during times of immediate need. The resilience and adaptability of tapioca underscore its importance in Singapore's culinary history during wartime. Fort Canning has a rich military history, and this root vegetable embodies the spirit of resilience and ingenuity. The success of growing tapioca during this period highlighted the community's resourcefulness in ensuring food security under dire circumstances. Next up, we have grapes, and these plants continue to play significant roles in Singapore's culinary and cultural landscape, showcasing their enduring value and versatility. Pandan, Pandanus amarylifolius. Pandan, with its sweet and floral aroma, is a cornerstone of Southeast Asian cuisine. You can find pandan at the Spice Garden in Fort Canning Park, where we are heading to, and it is a historical area that showcases various spice plants that were integral to early Singapore. As Singapore's population grew in the early 1800s, the use of pandan in culinary traditions became well documented. By the early 1900s, pandan had become a symbol of fusion cuisine of Indonesian origin. The bakery's version of the cake gained fame for its light and fluffy texture, becoming a beloved treat across generations. The pandan chiffon cake is a perfect example of how local ingredients were combined with European cake making techniques to create something that is uniquely Singaporean. And as we are approaching Fort Canning Park, last but not least, we have our favorite coconut! Cocos nucifera! Remember Mr. Ridley? Ridley's interest in palms extended beyond science for their practical uses. One of his early achievements was the Coconut Tree Preservation Ordinance, passed in 1890 following his recommendations to control the rhinoceros beetle. They provide food, drink and materials integral to dishes like laksa and coconut milk-based kueh. In the early 19th century, extensive plantations along the east coast in areas like Bedok and Patong were vital to the local economy, producing coconut oil and other products. And today, of course, coconuts are ubiquitous in Singapore. That is trending for the past few years. It features in everything from Mr. Coconut drinks to nasi lemak. Beyond their culinary fame, they have also shaped Singapore's cultural and physical landscapes, influencing land use and rituals. And you can find a coconut tree at Palm Valley at Singapore Botanic Gardens. Now, if you look to your left, we are soon approaching Fort Canning Park. So later on, if you do have time, you can check out some of the fruit trees, the native species at Fort Canning Park, particularly the spice gardens, where you can find a lot of interesting spices that are unique to Singapore, unique to Southeast Asia. Okay, so as our botanical feast draws to a close, let's raise a toast to the rich tapestry of flavors, stories and connections we have shared today. Thank you for joining me on this unique gastronomic journey through time. May you live, and we hope to see you again soon. Cheers to the journey and many more adventures ahead. And enjoy your food when we get to Fort Canning Park. Thank you.
Thank you. 在走。